So, good morning, everyone. I'm hoping everyone can see me. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Now, let's see if my feed. Good morning, Shani. Good morning. Could you guys just let me know if you can hear me? And we will be good to go. Good morning. All right. So, I want to welcome everyone to this webinar today. This is on the OET writing course, writing subtest, and we are going to be focusing on this thing called cohesion, which a lot of people struggle with, namely because many people do not understand what it is and how important it is to their writing. So I'm seeing people signing in already. Shani is here. She's in Dubai. Welcome. Chinu and Chinta are also here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Alicia, and I am a premium OET preparation provider for many years at with the occupational English test. I'll tell you a little bit more about our platform shortly. And there we go. Okay. So my feed might be a little slow. I'm sitting here in Germany, and this, of course, is spreading out all over the world. But never fear, I have your comments here, and I am watching mostly the OET YouTube channel, but it doesn't mean that you can't sign in, for example, on our Pro Medical English YouTube channel, and we're also streaming at the same time on our Facebook channel. So let's jump right in. Let me just refresh here to make sure everything is going well. So once everyone can hear me, we're going to jump right in. So today we are going to be talking about cohesion and what it is and what it means to your writing. And why it improves your marks. Okay. Because it does. But once again, many people, they don't understand what cohesion is, where it factors into the OET criteria. So that's what we're going to be taking a bit of a look at this morning. Oops, sorry. So moving right along. As I said, I'm Alicia. This is a webinar coming from promedicalenglish.com. We are an official OET preparation provider, and we've been providing OET preparation for the last 8 years. We provide webinars like this on a monthly basis. We also do OET writing classes. As a matter of fact, we have a free live class coming up shortly, as well as providing OET writing courses, ebooks, which are very well known if you're doing OET, and of course, many, many writing corrections. So a follow-up from this webinar today is going to be our free writing class on July the 7th. On August the 7th. That is next week, Wednesday, so in exactly 1 week time. This is free, first of all, and it is an 80-minute live class. Okay, So it's not a webinar. That one is not a webinar. It's a live class. So you'll be in the classroom with me, and we're going to be learning things like what examiners are looking for when it comes to the flow of your writing. We're going to review language that shows what good cohesion is. We're actually going to practice writing part of a letter um, with that improved cohesion. And at the end of it, if you've got any more questions about the OET writing, you will have me there, a captive audience, and you can ask me about it. Don't worry, I'm going to share more information about this at the end of the webinar. So let's jump right into this whole cohesion issue. And as you know already, there are many elements that go into good OET writing. So you see our little word cloud here. You've got content prioritization, vocabulary, organization, grammar, conciseness, logical flow. And you see then these two also, readability and cohesion. And here's the thing, they're not close to each other in this word cloud by accident. Readability and cohesion are actually linked. Okay? Um, so the question is, how are they linked? Well, I am a firm believer in show, don't tell. So we're going to start, before I go into explanations, I'm going to start by just showing you a bit of a writing sample here. It's a little long, but that's okay. We're going to focus today mostly on the first paragraph. And what I'm going to do is put you as the student, as the webinar attendant, as the OET candidate. I'm going to put you in the boots of the examiner. So you're going to become the examiner, and I want you to take a minute and just read. Let's focus on the first paragraph here. And I don't want you to overthink it. I don't want you to overthink it. I want you instead to just go with your gut feeling. When you read this paragraph, what is like your first instinctive reaction to it? And from there, we're going to go over into um, the concept of cohesion. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes. If you're joining us now and you think that there's something wrong with the feed, there's nothing wrong with the feed. This is just a few seconds of reading time, and there's also a little delay in the feed, but all good. Okay, so I'm going to read with you. Mr. Boyce moved to his uncle's farm 18 months ago. 11 months ago, he had an upper respiratory tract viral illness and was treated with ibuprofen and increased fluids. He came to our clinic again 2 months later with runny nose and wheezing. He was treated with antihistamines. The next time he returned, he also had wheezing and asthma was diagnosed, and he was given Ventolin inhaler and advised to rest and avoid allergens like hay and pollen. 3 weeks ago, however, he presented with worsening chest tightness as well as fatigue and night chills. On examination, significant findings was general wheezing. This is an actual student submission, errors and all, so we know that it should have been significant findings were general wheezing. He was started on Ventolin and prednisolone for 2 weeks, and lung and blood tests were ordered. Now, anyone, I see more people have written in, right? Shani, writings were, okay. So there are other issues in this letter that the student sent in. Yes, it should be findings were. There are also, yeah, a couple more down there. However, today we're focusing on like your general gut feeling. Okay, when you read this letter. I see somebody has joined us from Nepal. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So I would like you, if you are joining us live in the webinar, to just type in, um, a couple of quick words. What is your first impression when you read this first paragraph? I'm going to give you just a minute because we don't want to hold up the webinar. And then I'm going to tell you um, a bit about the standpoint as an examiner or assessor. Okay. So no one else has any input beside the grammar? No? Okay, okay, okay. I'm just going to give you one more minute and then we're going to start looking at it. Remember, I don't want you to think too deeply. I just want to go with your gut um, impression. Okay. Well, it seems this might be a bit of a challenge. Oh, I see. Well, yeah. Vilakati said no cohesion. Vilakati, what do you mean by no cohesion? What for you would have improved the quote unquote cohesion in this letter? Mhm. Hello, Shoba. What would have improved the cohesion? Shani says we can write and replace as well as, of course. So what you're talking about, Shani, is vocabulary and grammar. So hold that thought. We'll come back and talk more about vocabulary and grammar in a little bit. Vilakati says not concise. Excellent. Because that is also an element. That is also a very important element. So the question comes, how do we get that conciseness? All right. Anyone else? So Shani has locked in on what we will call conjunctions or connecting words or phrases. Vilakati has locked in on conciseness. Let's move on. Okay. So for me as the tutor, I'm looking at things like content or the assess. I'm looking at content. I'm looking at vocabulary. I'm looking at organization. I'm looking at flow. I'm looking at tone. But I'm also looking at that readability and cohesion. Now, I want you to bear in mind these words here, readability and cohesion. Yeah? Just keep that in the back of your mind, readability and cohesion. Because actually, when it comes to content, you guys don't have the case notes, but I can tell you the content here is actually correct. There are no inaccuracies, and technically speaking, they have given the relevant information. Okay? The organization as well needs a little bit of help. Um, because as someone just said, there's no, Vilakati says there needs to be a bit more conciseness. Okay. Let's look at some of the other criteria, the flow and the tone. Yeah. It's actually, technically speaking, flowing correctly with respect to timeline because you see, they start with 18 months, then they did 11 months, then they talked about 2 months later, which would have been 9 months. Then the next time, we don't know precisely when, but we know it's sometime after the 2 months. Um, than 3 weeks ago and now. So technically, they have correctly organized the information. And tone wise, again, technically speaking, they have used the correct tone because, they've spoken about wheezing, asthma, allergens, which are kind of fatigue and night chills, which are kind of very minor technical words that you would use when you're talking to another healthcare professional. They've spoken about Ventolin and prednisolone, lung and blood tests ordered, and so on and so forth. Okay. And very, very quickly down here, then they talked about lung x rays show airway obstruction, inflammation, and mild fibrosis. So, again, this is technical language that another healthcare professional would understand. So, the tone is actually there, but readability. Okay. So let's look a bit now at exactly what readability is. Now I know this is about this is about conciseness. This is about cohesion, but let's look first at readability and then go into cohesion. Okay? So, what exactly is readability? Now readability is there's no one hard word where you can say, okay, it has to do with grammar, it has to do with organization, it has to do with content. Rather, if we go directly to the OET official descriptors, there's this one little phrase that I like to zoom in on, and that phrase is strain for the reader. And you, as a reader, know that if you're reading something, there are lots of reasons why they could be you could be strained while reading it. It could be something completely unrelated to what you're reading, but oftentimes it has to do with what you're reading itself. So instead of trying to put a word definition to strain for the reader, I like to put a picture. And this is the picture that I put. And you see my arrow here? My arrow here is pointed to this line right down here. Okay? And what is that line? You know that line. That is the line of concentration. That is the line of focus. That is the line of confusion. So if this is your examiner, okay, strain is indicated by that line there. So if when they are reading your stuff, anytime they get this, bunched up eyebrows and that line forms there, that means that that examiner is experiencing strain while they are reading your work. And what is the source of that strain? Again, it's not one thing. The examiner could be thinking, I need to read that again. I didn't quite get it the first time. And you don't want that. The examiners are busy. They've got literally dozens of letters to read in one day. They don't want or need or appreciate having to read something again and again and again just to figure out what's going on. The other thing that might be straining them is the idea of how does this idea link with the idea that went before? Is it connected? Is it not connected? Is it cause and effect? Is it just one thing came after the other? So it's not just about time, but what is that link? Okay. And the other thing they could be thinking is this punctuation or grammar or organization is distracting me. Okay. I want to engage with what's being said, but every other word there's a spelling error or the grammar is wrong or whatever. So this line of confusion, and I call it my C line. Okay. I've done so many of these assessments. I call it my C line. What do I mean by that? It's a straight line. But if at any time that line forms on my forehead and it sticks there, you're at a C, and now I'm climbing you up to a C plus or a B, or in some cases going down. But all right, It can appear once because I'm human and I might be distracted by something else. But that is a C line if it forms and it stays there. Okay. So, what is readability? It is those smooth connections, and somebody said connectors, without distractions. Without distractions. And it is that smooth connection without distractions, whatever those distractions may be, that form and define cohesion. So your distractors could be grammar, it could be punctuation, it could be connectors, it could be a lack of conciseness, whatever. Okay? But once the examiner starts reading your letter, they just want to flow through and they don't want their brain to stutter. They don't want the C line to form. They just want to be going through. Okay? So, cohesion, when you now, as the student, are writing your letter, what do you have to keep in mind for cohesion? First of all, how your ideas are organized. Okay. Now, in the letter we saw before, the sample that I grabbed out of my notes, um, we saw that technically speaking, the ideas were organized very correctly with respect to time. However, as someone mentioned, there's no conciseness. Let's go back up again. Okay. Oops, here we go. There's no conciseness. Mr. Boyce moved to his uncle's farm 18 months ago. 11 months ago, he had respiratory tract illness. He came again 2 months later. He was treated with so and so. The next time he returned. And all of these are upper respiratory tract issues. So this person lacks the ability to summarize and be concise. Okay. Um, 3 weeks ago, however, he presented with worsening chest pain as well as blah, blah, blah on examination. Significant findings were general wheezing. He was started on Ventolin and prednisolone and were ordered. Now, I personally have a problem with lung and blood tests were ordered. Why? Because in the next paragraph, it mentions what the results were. And I always tell my students, if you're going to put in results, there's no need to say that the tests were done. It's obvious they were done. Okay. And for me, that's a conciseness thing. Don't give me extra words to read that really add nothing to my knowledge of this patient's background. Um, he missed his 2-week appointment and ran out of medication. Today he reports. Bottom line, since this is all one system, all one set of symptoms, it could have been summarized much more concisely. Okay? And he missed his 2-week appointment and ran out of medication a week ago. So we've got this kind of going back and forth. We're talking about today, and now we're going back a week ago. So we've also got a timeline thing. So one small little issue with organization. And then short sentence, full stop. Short sentence, full stop. Short sentence, full stop. Short sentence, full stop. Mentally, for the examiner, this is a lot of reading and stopping, reading and stopping, reading and stopping. When instead, they could have used connectors much more efficiently and effectively to kind of link those ideas in the summary that they've done of this whole picture. So that when the examiner reads, it's like, Mr. Boyce moved to his uncle's farm 18 months ago, and over the next several months had repeated upper respiratory symptoms, including blah, 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 which worsened until blah, blah, blah. Okay. So for an examiner reading it, they can flow through what I just said a lot faster than short sentence, full stop, short sentence, full stop, short sentence, full stop. Okay. All right. So just take a second, think about that. So it's the organization of ideas, including summarizing. So let's go back now. Sentence structure. Technically speaking, in that example I just showed you, the sentence structure was fine. Of each, if you took each sentence on its own, okay, spelling was correct. They only had like one or two grammatical mistakes in the two paragraphs, which is, you know, not the end of the world. So their sentence structure was actually okay. But again, how the sentences and ideas are joined, that is what cohesion is. So as you write your letters, you want to be thinking at the back of your mind about organization of ideas, sentence structure, and how the ideas are joined. And you're thinking, yeah, but why do I need to do that? I can just put and. No, because here's why. Each of these comes under a slightly different OET criterion. So when your cohesion is off, you're going to lose at least some marks or part of a mark for organization. You're going to lose at least some part of a mark, or if not marks, for sentence structure or sentence flow. And you're also going to lose some marks, or at least some part of marks, for how your sentences are joined together and how they flow logically. So this is three areas that you lose marks on because of one feature in your writing. And this is why sentence cohesion or information cohesion is so important. Let me repeat that. Cohesion in your writing is important, not because it is some little small issue at the back that it's not important, but because it is so important. It is a common feature of multiple criteria, which means you can lose part of marks or whole marks in multiple criteria because of poor sentence cohesion. Okay, good. So, what do you need to do? You need practice. That's what you need. You need practice. And you need to practice how your sentences and ideas are joined and all the little issues that go into joining your sentences together. Okay. So, yes, you do have to look at grammar and you do have to look at organization time wise, but you also have to look at connectors. You also have to look at where you can summarize. You can also have to look at how the ideas are organized. Okay. So, because this is such an important aspect, our free writing class that's coming up next week, Wednesday, is going to be focusing on just that. How to improve that flow, that lovely cohesion, that smooth flow in your writing so that the examiner doesn't have that face that I showed you before with what I like to call the C line, which is the what? What? I have to read that again. You don't want that. Okay. So we're going to go more into more details in that class on what the examiner is looking for. We are going to review kinds of language. Today we just talked about it globally, but in that class, we're going to look at kinds of language. that demonstrates good cohesion. So we're going to be looking at connectors and not just the ones everyone loves to use, like moreover and. We're going to be looking at how to summarize ideas. And we're also going to look, quite frankly, at different ways to organize your information so it is still logical. Because again, logical organization is part of cohesion as well. Okay. So I'm going to throw in a practice exercise for you that's taken from real case notes. And we're going to use that in the group to look at cohesion. And then at the end of the class, if you have any more questions you want to ask me about writing OET letters in general, once we have time in that 18-minute class, you can ask. Okay. So again, it is on the 7th of August, which is next week, Wednesday. It's at 12:30. It's going to be by Zoom. If you want any more information, you can contact us at this number or just send an email, honestly, to admin@promedicalenglish.com. And you can also find out more about it on the website. One of the exercises we're going to do actually is we're going to take this same paragraph here and we're actually going to improve it for flow, readability, and cohesion. And then we're going to add another exercise. Okay? Because I want you to be able to generate your own cohesive sentences, not just correct ones that somebody else has done. Okay? So we're going to come to questions shortly. And this is the information here. Once again, here is the QR code. So for example, if you are pulling this up on a mobile device and you have your phone otherwise, you can just scan this QR code and it's going to take you straight to this registration form. You just fill out the information below the registration form and you get an email. So please put in your email correctly. And once you have submitted that, you get an email and there will be the link to join the Zoom class. Okay. And again, the Zoom class will be with me and we'll be doing actual exercises. It's not a webinar, it's a class. So come prepared to speak, to participate, and to share. Okay. Um, I do webinars, but I really prefer my classes. Okay. And that is it for today. Okay. So let's take you back here. So at this point, um, I will ask you now to, oh, we're out of time. But I will now open to some very general questions about OET. You can, of course, ask about any subtest. However, I will prioritize the ones that have to do with OET writing, especially to do with cohesion. So Amir, oh, more people were typing in. Okay. So Amir was saying, please also share a list of acceptable cohesive devices. Now, Amir, that's actually an interesting request, a list of cohesive devices. A list is great, Amir, but how do you use them? Where do you use them? When do you use them? Okay. And remember that cohesion is not just about conjunctions or connectors, as they're commonly called, the and the as well as, and the, okay? It's about summary, it's about flow. And this is a skill that as an OET candidate, well, OET candidates have to develop, and they only develop it through practice. So a list is nice. Um, but how you use it. It's like having a beautiful car in your garage, but you can't drive it. You don't even know how to turn it on. As a matter of fact, you don't even have the key. What's the point of the beautiful car? Okay. So, what you can do, Amir, is join us in our class, our live class next week, Wednesday. And then we do the actual exercise. Ziz, there are two I have. When we do the actual exercises, then you'll have more insight. What I will say is this: social media is a hive of information, and sometimes, unfortunately, it is also misinformation and misdirecting. So, for example, I have seen exchanges when people say, "You're not supposed to use moreover, you're not supposed to use hence, you're not supposed," and these absolutes. No, 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 no. Here's why. Okay. What the examiner is looking for is flexibility in your language. Okay? So if you use and, but, moreover, hence, and you're using one thing over and over and over again, what the examiner sees is rote language. That means you're just using the language by rote. What the examiner understands is that this person actually is not that comfortable with the language, and they're using a formula to write their letter. Examiners have been doing this for a long time. Okay? They recognize formulaic writing when they see it, and they mark formulaic writing accordingly. Okay. So it is not about a specific word being used. It is about how and how often you use that word. So if there's one thing that I'm going to ask um, people participating or watching this webinar to do is this. Please be very careful where you get your information. Let me repeat. Please be very careful where you get your information. Please defer to reputable premium preparation providers and OET trained providers, preliminary and premium preparation providers. Okay? Please. So, let's see what other questions we have here. How to identify. So we've got a couple of general questions. So I'll take time for like 2, 3 questions, and then that'll be it for this webinar. How to identify the writing task, update, referral, or transfer. Actually, that is a lovely question. There's this thinking that, first of all, okay, let me back up. I'm going to tackle this question in 2. Okay. 1 is update, referral, and transfer, and 2 is the where. Now, let's look at vocabulary. Update, referral, and transfer. Okay. There is a school of thought that is, if this is a referral, I have to start, I am writing to refer, da, 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 and I automatically get my first mark. Or I'm writing to update you, and I've automatically got my first mark. No. You don't get any marks for writing the word referral, for writing the word transfer, or writing the word, what was the other one? Update. What the examiner is looking for is if you understand the function and purpose and language that you have to use to show that that is what you're doing. Let me repeat that. You do not automatically get a mark because you write the word refer, or you write the word update, or you write the word transfer because it was in the writing task. What the examiner is looking for is if the language of your purpose and the rest of your letter is showing that this is the function you are performing. Yes, you can use those words. Now, I have to be very careful because people hear and they only listen to part of what you're saying. You can use the words referral, update, transfer, whatever that appear in the task, but do not think that that is automatically going to score you a mark already in purpose. It isn't. Okay? Examiners are looking for function, not just the vocabulary. Okay? So let me just put that there. So now, how do you identify where that is? Exactly. Now, often in the writing task is where you see the reason for writing this letter. Okay? And that's what you're talking about, Chenkwal. You're talking about the reason. But there are other places that you can look for the reason for this letter. Okay? If it isn't in the writing task, this is when you have to start going up and looking. Because what you are asking, Chenkwal, is how do I find the reason for writing this letter? How do I find the reason for writing this letter? And that is why you have to read the case notes up to and including the plan at the bottom. Okay? As well as the writing task. Make no mistake about it. OET is indirectly checking your reading comprehension. OET is indirectly checking your reading comprehension. Okay? They are indirectly checking your reading comprehension. So effectively what you're asking is, how can I understand where to find the reason for this letter? That comes from reading skills. That comes from understanding the layout of the paper. But I can tell you this. If you don't see an indication of the reason in the writing task, go up because often it is right there in the plan. But again, you have to understand what you're reading. Don't just pull out a bunch of words and drop them on your page. You have to understand the bigger picture. Okay? So, hope that answers your question, Chenkwal. I know it was a little bit of a long explanation, but that is because this is a concept error that I notice, or a concept misunderstanding that I notice students make again and again and again. So, I just want to clarify that. What we need to write in front of infants. Baby math. Oh, Shraddha, if it's a baby in arms, you can say baby John, baby Stephen, baby Jane, or sometimes, yes, you do say Master John or Master James. There are some places where you can say that, it's fine. If you're dealing with a younger child, um, who is, walking around on their own, but they're not an adult. They're still, maybe under the age of 12 or 14 or whatever. You can address them by their first name, Jane, John, Harry, Alice. But if it's like, older teen and adult, of course, you use Miss or Ms. or Mr. Unfortunately, there is no hard cut off age, but yeah, okay. Chenkwal says, "Ma'am, this is regarding Mr. Smith, who requires if we don't know the type of right." Exactly, exactly. What you have done there, Chenkwal, by saying this is regarding Mr. Smith, who requires. You know what the examiner understands? Oh, this person here understands what this patient requires. This candidate has read and understood what is going on in the case notes. Okay. So you haven't used refer, transfer, or whatever, but you're still off to a really good start. So yeah, you can do that. Okay. Okay, so that is it for today. Again, I encourage you to join the writing class that we have next week, Wednesday, at which point in time you actually get to talk about hard and fast language, practice, and get feedback and share like in a real 80-minute class. Okay. Thank you for joining us and see you next time. Bye bye. Oh, sorry. Before I signed off, I was just about to sign off, and someone said to share the link to the upcoming class. Um, yes, I will. Yes, I will. I'm sorry here. Yes, I will share it. Hold on, everyone. Thank you for reminding me. So this is linked to upcoming free class. Control V. Yes. Oops. Hold on. Give me 1 second, guys. There you have it. And send. Okay. So you can just click on that link. If it's not clickable, on mine it's being very weird. If it's not clickable, just copy and paste it. And if you have any questions that you have about joining the class, or you have any difficulty with the link, you can, of course, just send us an email. That is our email address, info@promedicalenglish.com. Very easy. info@promedicalenglish.com. Just ask us a question and we'll share whatever you need. It's not a problem. You will also see on our website a WhatsApp widget. You click on that and you're in conversation with us. Okay? All right, guys. I'm wishing you a wonderful day. And for those of you who have exams coming up, I'm sending positive vibes out to you. Best of luck. Bye bye.